Hello, and welcome to episode 4 in the IBM Connections Customizer video series. My name is Brian Gleeson. I'm a developer on the app dev team in IBM Ireland, and today I'm going to go into detail on 3 different customizer samples. If you haven't seen episodes 1 to 3 yet, I would highly recommend checking them out before this one, as this episode builds on top of those. The samples that I'll show you in this video should help to illuminate the scope of possibilities that Customizer brings to connections, and hopefully inspire your own ideas for useful customizations. In previous videos, this first sample was demonstrated by Christian in episode 2 using GreaseMonkey locally, and then it was also demonstrated by Pádraig in episode 3 on Connections Cloud using Customizer. This customization applies to the profile page, converting it from this to looking like this. Quite an overhaul. So let's go over and take a closer look at how this sample works. I've already added the profiles customization to my organization, so let's open it up. The path property here specifies when we want this customization to be loaded, namely on the profile page. And profiles customization.js is the file that we want to inject on the page. And of course, this entire application is associated with the Customizer service. So if I switch over to GitHub here and look at the samples that are associated with my organization and go to Profiles, and then Profiles Customization.js, all this file is actually doing is adding a style sheet to the page. And it's actually the CSS style sheet that contains the details of the customization. So opening that up, there is a long list of custom styles that will be applied to the profiles page in Connections using this file here. And on line 236, for example, this will change the background image of the profiles header on the page. But there are many more tweaks and alterations contained in this file. And as you saw, this is the end result, including that background image change at the top. And just to be clear, this customization applies to the profile page for all users in the organization. So if I switch over to this other user, John Snow knows nothing about Customizer, but he benefits from the customization nonetheless as a member of this organization. The next sample is designed to customize the appearance of the news river on the home page of Connections. The home page is broken up into 5 different sections using the menu on the left. Clicking on each menu option simply changes the hash URL of the page and consequently the content shown on the page. I've now added the News River sectioned customization to the app registry, so let's see what it does in Connections homepage. Now you can see that each individual update has a raised border and also a colored background, and when I change the filtering to different types, I get a different colored background indicating the type that I am viewing. So let's take a look at the code. As you can see, the path is set to home page, and we're pulling in the newsriver section.user.jas file. If we open that up in GitHub, let's try and explain what's happening. The first 2 lines here simply check that Dojo is loaded and that the DOM is ready, and then we can proceed with our customization. We then have a function called handle hash change event, which, as the name suggests, handles whenever the hash is changed in the browser. So the hash value is pulled out, and then we change the newsriver color based on the detected value. The change newsriver color function itself takes in those 3 color values and then adds a style to the page with various CSS properties inside of it. We then bind the handle hash change event function to the window.onHashChange event. And finally, we call handle hash change event after the initial load to set the default coloring for the page. Not too complicated in the end, and this gives us the custom effect on our homepage updates feed depending on the detected hash in the URL. The third and final sample I want to demonstrate today is the flip cards customization. This sample alters the appearance of the list of communities that I am following. And here you can see the default appearance of that particular page. So let's go over to the app registry and add our customizer application. So I've added the flip card sample to the app registry. Let's open it up and take a look inside. So this time you can see that the path is specified to be communities, so that it will load when we're looking at the communities page. And we've selected the comlistcards flipstyle.user.js file to be injected. But we also have a match property inside the payload of this extension. And this match property means that we are more specifically targeting the followed communities URL as the time that we want to apply this particular customization. So before looking at the JavaScript, let's see what this does in action. So on the followed communities page, you can now see that there is a toggle button in the top right. And if I click on that, I get an altered experience for the followed communities page. I now get flip cards representing each individual community, and I can hover over them to see more information about that community and click on them to access that particular community. But if I want to switch back to the default experience, I can click on the toggle button above again. So let's take a look at the code. This is probably the most complex of the three examples in this video, so let's try and break it down step by step. First up is a utility method called waitFor, which is used to wait for a particular element to be loaded on the page before carrying out a callback function. We'll use this a little bit later on in the code. Next we have two functions, showTable and showTiles. One is to trigger showing the table view and the other is to trigger showing the tiled views. These are triggered by clicking on the toggle buttons on the page. And you'll notice that the first line of each of these functions sets a cookie value called comTiles to either 0 or 1, and this tells us which type of view we want to load in the page. The next function, createComTiles, is responsible for creating the community tiles when we're in the tiled view. First up, we check that the tile styles are added to the page, and if not, we inject the style tag containing a bunch of CSS properties for our tiles. Next, we delete any existing community tiles as we want to replace all of them with a new set. And then we begin to build up all of the tiles. So for every row in the list of communities, we create a new tile to represent that community. We pull in a bunch of data from the existing community rendering, such as the image, the number of members, when it was last updated, and so forth, as we want to use that information on the new tile format for that community. And then we start to build up the HTML for each individual tile. And in each case, we pass in the properties that we've pulled from the page. So once we've created our set of tiles, we can add those to the page inside of a container div called comTiles. Next up, we have a function to create the toggle buttons. This simply adds two buttons to the page and triggers the showTable or the showTiles function as appropriate when clicked. Then we put it all together in the renderFlipCards function, which we call at the end using the waitFor utility function, so that we can ensure that the table of communities has been loaded and we can accurately create our tiled community list. So pulling all of that code into the followed communities page, we can get the expected outcome of having our flip cards loaded and our user experience altered. So that's quite a detailed customization in terms of the code involved and in terms of the outcome achieved once it is enabled. Hopefully this gives you a sense of how much power Customizer can give you to completely alter the user experience within connections. That brings us to the end of episode 4, but there's still more to come in episode 5. Martin will be back to delve into some of the more fine-grained detail about what Customizer is capable of doing, from more advanced match parameters to injecting multiple files for your customizations. So keep an eye on the link below for the next episode. And thanks for watching.